Hey everybody, it's Marty the JavaScript Party. I'm doing my one of my quick videos for 3JS, simple 3JS. So I added the ability to change the number of sides on a circular plane. See, I love being able to say that sentence because a week and a half ago I wouldn't even be able to make that sentence. So this is good. But as you see, as the sides number of side or segments get larger, it gets more and more round. My understanding is at 64, it is round. Anything above 64, and it's round. Um, and then I think I have it defaulted to 3, which is the lowest number that it can be. And the animation still works. And I'm just so fascinated by this because I feel like we might have a really good demonstration, be able to do a good demonstration of memory leaks, but that's not really the point of this thing here. But what's interesting about this to me is that what I find very fascinating about this whole thing is that let's go faster, faster. Oh yeah, and let's make it a little bit smaller or fewer segments. Okay, so I think that's really really cool. I guess if we go faster, and that's where we get that. So let's go over the code. Okay, so this was actually quite complicated. And it was a lot more complicated than I suspected it would be. So basically, I don't think so. There's nothing particularly interesting about this. I just added a new control. I just added a new way for it to communicate using signals. It's not really what this is about. And then I updated the control service with my new S signal, and then but the complex stuff happens in here. So I ended up having to create a bunch of what these are typically called component um, attributes, and then we ended up having to create an effect to listen for changes, and then anytime there's a change in the segment count, we need to remove our group from the scene, create a new group, and add the group back to the scene. And see, where do we create? Oh, yeah, we create a new group and then we add it. And then all those ended up being, a lot of that ended up getting pulled into other functions so that I could call them from multiple places. A lot of times people will call that abstracted. I abstracted that away. I think it's technically right, but it's like not like emotionally right or whatever. So in here, basically almost every line in the after view init ended up being um, rewritten to deal with the component variables. And the reason they needed to be component variables is because we need to be able to, in this effect, be able to remove and add them. So basically, we just needed to make them more available. I also needed to pull the set animation code out of ng-init and bring it down here. And then we created this great create group function, which, as you can see, within this function, it's actually tricked Git into thinking that this was all um, already here, even though now it's in a new function. And then the geometry, updating this. We're updating the geometry based on the segment count. So if you go back up here to this effect, we set the segment count based on the signal that we get. So then, here's where we create our new group and we return the group and we also set it. I don't know if probably doing both probably doesn't make sense, but I just did. Um, and then we have to be able to remove a group. And so that is fun. And basically, ChatGPT wrote all this code for me. I showed it sort of this function, and then I said, "Can you make the remove for me?" And it did. And I didn't honestly didn't really go over it that carefully. But what I'm fascinated by here is this set animation. right? So you notice that we set the animation in this effect, right? That's where it gets set. And we also will set it the first time through this. So the first time we come through, we call it initialized and all that. If if an effect fires but we haven't been initialized, it just doesn't. All it does is set the segment count. It doesn't actually try to create anything because in all likelihood, when the very first time this fires, and I didn't even test this, but the very first time this fires, in all likelihood, the DOM element doesn't even exist yet. So we need to wait until after NGU init. Now, well, technically, maybe we should do everything in here instead of doing stuff in here because, the initialization, but I don't know. I'm not worried about that right now. But so the thing that's interesting to me, and the thing I'm gonna do a little bit of testing, actually, um, yeah, it's going to be a little bit harder to do than I was thinking. But I want to see if this, like, this animation, like if when we create this animation and it returns the function, like it would be good to see if it fires more than um like if that function even after like okay, it'd be interesting to see like here, for example, and this is beyond the scope, so I apologize for that. But like here we have an animation, right? We're saying, hey, move this. We know there's one animation function and it's firing on the animation frame. What I'm curious about is when I come here and I add this, I just killed everything and I created a new animation. Is that old animation still running behind the scenes? Don't know. I probably will make a video just about that because that sort of I kind of made a deal with y'all that I wouldn't get too deep into technology, the Angular and JavaScript technology in this. I would try to stay very focused on 3JS. Anyways, happy coding, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Bye.